All right, everyone. So go ahead and grab your popcorn, get some snacks, get comfortable in your seat, whatever you like to do whenever you watch a long video. This video is quite a bit longer than our usual ones, but that's because Libby here did our Adventure Dog program, which is our 5-week board and train. So originally, you might not believe it based on what you'll end up seeing in this video, but originally Libby was a dog that pulled kind of all over the place. She was super wild. She liked to kind of pull and go her own way. She didn't really like to wait on the handler or her owner to go to different places. She would just see something and be like, hey, that's for me, I'm going. So here you can see some of the things we worked on with Libby during her board and train. What this is a video towards the end of the board and train where we can demonstrate kind of everything she learned during her stay with us. One thing you'll notice is the video sometimes gets a little shaky, cuts out in audio. That's why I'm doing the voiceover here. We're having some technical difficulties for some reason, but now you're stuck with me. So anyways, a few of the things you'll see here. One, Libby's no longer pulling on the leash. As you can kind of see, she's very easy and compliant to kind of hang out with, go for a stroll. Here we have a cart full of things. Lowe's is pretty loud, and we're doing some shopping with her. And she's doing great at just sticking with Anna. She's listening to commands. She's very compliant and easy to manage, which originally, although like I said, you might not believe it, she was pretty crazy. This is one of the dogs we really wish we would have got a before video on, but unfortunately we didn't. It's actually kind of funny. One of the very first things that her owner said whenever she passed over the leash, whenever she dropped her off for her board and train, was good luck. And she had like this look on her face like she just didn't believe that her dog would be capable of doing any of this kind of stuff. And we're super happy to say that, obviously, as you can see in the video, Libby did really well during her board and train, and she learned quite a few different skills. So one of the big ones here is being able to do a down and a stay in a store. If you guys are familiar with our training program, we don't use words like stay or wait in our training system, but the dog naturally applies them to the behavior. So there, all Anna had to do was say down. Libby went to the down, and then she was able to leave. She didn't have to give any hand signs. She didn't have to stay. She didn't have to say wait. She didn't have to do any of that kind of stuff. We find that it makes it a lot easier on the handling side of things for owners to get more consistent and reliable with their dog once they take them back home, not having to have all these extra steps in the training process. So here it gets a little boring. We're just doing some healing through the store. As you can see, she passes by a few people, and one of the big things is I just kind of sped this up just to make it a little bit faster. This video is originally like 15 or 20 minutes long, so I wanted to make sure we didn't waste too much of your guys' time. But here you can see Libby's doing great. She's healing straight through the store. She's ignoring distractions. Every once in a while she goes just a little wide, but she doesn't even need necessarily a correction or a leash pop or anything like that. And she knows that she's too far out of boundaries, and she kind of self-corrects and puts herself back in position. So after a little bit of healing, we decided to go into this aisle. It's still in fast forward for you guys in case it looks kind of weird. But here we just wanted to show Libby being able to do another downstay. But in this case, instead of just staying there, we actually wanted Libby to do a recall. So this is just showing that she has both capabilities of being able to stay and wait for us to pick her up, as well as being able to recall back to us whenever she's called. In this case, you can really see Libby doesn't really like dragging the leash. It kind of slows her down a little bit, and she seems a little hesitant. She was a little nervous about leashes being underneath her feet in the very beginning. As you can see, she still kind of is, but it's one of the things we kind of work through with her as well. Alright, so here we're going back into some healing after doing the recall with Libby. As you can see, she's able to go from being in like that downstay position, getting the freedom of the recall where she was technically like off leash, although she was dragging a leash, and then she's able to get right back into behavior without fighting it too much. She didn't need a bunch of extra commands, she didn't need a bunch of extra help. She was willing to go right back into the work even right after that little lapse of freedom. So here we go. We're just healing back around the store again. At this point, we're actually trying to find someone to pet Libby so we can kind of demonstrate some of her greeting skills. That was one of the things Libby really struggled with in the beginning. Every single time someone would go to pet her or greet her, it was her most favorite thing to do was just kind of launch at them, jump at them, and it wasn't out of meanness or aggression or anything like that. She just got really overexcited and she didn't know how to kind of emotionally regulate or how to control her emotions in that case. So here we finally found someone. This first person she gets pet by is actually someone that pet her whenever we first walked into the store. He was all excited to see her. So here she's not as excited to see him because she already got some greeting there. But here in a minute you'll actually see someone else come walking up as well. And this is someone she's never been greeted by before, she's never met before, any of those kind of things. And you can see her behavior stays consistent. One thing you'll notice is that Anna didn't necessarily have to tell her to sit or to not jump or anything like that. Like I said, in our system, we try to keep it as simple and easy as possible for the handler once the dog comes back home. So Libby naturally knew to kind of get into a restful position for the greeting instead of getting overexcited and jumping and pulling and going kind of crazy how she originally did. Now here, the employee actually had some treats on her as well, so this even worked even better in our advantage. As you can see, Libby knows that the treats aren't for her unless they're given to her, so you notice she's not jumping or trying to pull on the leash or trying to get the treats early. She's waiting in that calm, seated position for the food to actually come to her and the person with the treats to actually choose to give it to her rather than trying to take it early. One of the big things that's difficult for dogs is actually, once you go from a greeting, being able to go back into behavior. So that's one thing we really wanted to show here as well. There you saw she got greeted by 2 different employees. She was able to come right back with that high level of emotional excitement, right back into the heel position, and she didn't fight it or she didn't want to stick with them like a lot of dogs would. If you've ever trained with us, we usually call that how dogs are able to disconnect, and a lot of dogs really struggle with that in the beginning. One other thing dogs really struggle with as well is going through thresholds. So that's what we wanted to demonstrate here. One of the big benefits of training at Lowe's or getting to test dogs at Lowe's is the fact that they have these automatic doors for one, which kind of spook dogs sometimes, as well as the ability to go from literally inside to outside, back to inside multiple times. So here we went from being inside, now we're in this like intermediate like greenhouse kind of space of where it's not really heated and cooled, but it's not necessarily outside. And then there we go through some second automatic doors, which take us all the way outside. One of the big things that usually affects dogs going through stuff like that is the fact that there's a bunch of new smells, they're kind of entering new rooms, they're going through new environments. But here you can actually see and you'll notice that Libby didn't change her demeanor. She got excited a little bit, but she didn't try to break position, she didn't try to pull away and sniff, she didn't try to leave Anna's side because she knows her job is to hang out with Anna and kind of follow her wherever she goes. So from here, we bridge into just some more stationary work. This is a little bit more of a boring video, but I always say this is a little more practical as well. So one thing you'll see is Anna is in the restroom. I'm just here shopping around in their appliance section, opening and closing fridges, laundry machines, all those kind of things, and periodically coming back to the cart to grab random items to see if I can tempt her out of the position. Here you'll notice Libby's completely like off leash. Obviously she has a leash on just for safety precautions because she's training, but for the most part no one's holding that leash, no one's holding her accountable to this position, and she technically has the freedom to leave position if she chose to do so. But because of the training, she knows her job is to stay there and wait for myself or Anna or her original owner to come back and kind of pick her up out of position or to call her back to us. In this case, as you can see, I'm walking around left and right. One of the big things is going behind dogs. A lot of times going behind a dog in a down, instead of here how Libby moves her neck, a lot of dogs would choose to stand up and try to rotate their body. But notice how Libby does everything in her power to stay in the down, wait for her to be released, and there you can see I release her. Libby's a little clumsy, so she ran over and actually knocked over my camera. So there you got to see some of that as well. And then one last thing we wanted to demonstrate in this video as well is something else that's very practical. So here Libby's in a down while we're shopping. We actually had to buy this rack. I don't necessarily know what you want to call it. I guess a storage rack, but it's pretty big and heavy. It needed 2 people to move it. So Anna was able to put Libby into a down position and a stay while we were able to move this big rack onto the cart. There's a bunch of noises going on. You'll see here in a second an employee comes over, but Libby knows her job and her reason for being here is to stay in the down until she's released out or told to come like heel with us or recall or something along those lines. As you can see, Libby's doing great through all of this. So here in a second is where we actually go back and pick her up, right about here. So Anna's giving her her little reward of just some affection, letting her know she did the right thing, and then we're able to free her out and she's able to kind of move throughout the store as well. Now here we're at a park. This is during some of Libby's training before she was finished. This is just teaching her how to be off leash. That's one thing we really focus on with our adventure dog program is make sure the dog's capable of going to stores, different restaurants, things like that, but as well as being able to go for like off leash hikes, off leash walks, and having a reliable recall. Now, just like usual, here's some quick photos and videos from kind of her stay, just showing how she got to where she got. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one. We can't wait to show you what else we had in store.